Today, Bitcoin touched prices above the $48,000 level. And when you take a step back and look at the weekly chart, you start to see that we are creating exponential higher lows. The parabolic trend is now becoming obvious. We are no longer just following an uptrend line. We have created an exponential higher low. And if you're a viewer of this channel, we've been talking about the parabolic trend potential, which is now starting to really show its teeth. And we've been talking about the trapped liquidity setup, which is very close to taking place. So let's discuss all of this and more in today's video. What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Kevin Svenson, and today we're going to be discussing the price of Bitcoin. And I want to stick to the higher time frames because this is what's really important. Today's Friday, end of the week. And really quick, before we jump into Bitcoin, the S&P 500 has closed yet another fantastic weekly at new all-time highs, the highest weekly of all time. The important things that I see Bitcoin doing on the weekly, just starting off with the price action, we are really likely going to get a close above this critical 44,000 level. For many months, Bitcoin was unable to close a weekly above that 44,000 level, and now we are well above that price. Now, of course, it happened before during the ETF pump where we did see a rejection back down. But I would say that with the stock market at new all-time highs, with the ETF being approved, that dip is now over, exponential higher low. As we discussed in previous videos, this weekly candle where we got rejection after the Bitcoin ETF approval, well, all of the positions that are short inside of that candle will be trapped once we get above the 49,000 level. Looking at this chart, we can see the 20 EMA dotted line. Pull out this line and just hit the shift button. If you hold shift, it'll bring your trend line to a 45-degree angle. And if the EMA is pointed up at 45 degrees, well, then your market is sufficiently trending in order to actually play out a short squeeze. You need that momentum to get that trapped liquidity play to take place. But we are currently sitting at a 45-degree angle on the 20 EMA. And now that we've established that we are trending, if you measure the size of this weekly candle, this is the target candle, that weekly rejection candle. Measure the size from the wick low to the wick high. In a trending market, if you get above that wick high, that's where the shorts are trapped and they begin to squeeze. And in a trending market, it translates to a 1 to 1.5 risk reward normally. That is the standard sort of expected target you would get in this type of a setup, and that lands us just above 60,000. So 60,000 more or less would be the trapped liquidity short squeeze target. And if you look at the longer term chart, that squeeze would lead us right into the halving. And so if we were to squeeze up, I do think that after that point, we would probably see a post-halving dip, maybe back to that 44,000 level as new support, and then look to continue the trend later. But I think going into the halving, there's not going to be many sellers, I don't think. Maybe closer to the halving, we could see a little bit of a dip and then continuation. That is quite possible. But going into the halving, does it make sense that everyone's going to start selling their Bitcoin, getting rid of their Bitcoin? I don't think so. If you look at Bitcoin history, everything that takes place before the halving is a buy. All of this, you never got those prices again. Go back to the last halving before that, you never got these prices again. It was always up and away, and you never saw those prices again. I'm not saying it's guaranteed that we will never see these prices again, or maybe the prices we're at now. Certainly right after the halving, you could see these prices again. But in the long term, it's possible that we at least may not retest these levels for a long time. Election years are usually the most bullish years. The Fed's looking to reduce rates. Stock market's new all-time highs. I mean, everything is pretty much there for us to have a standard successful post-halving bull market. And looking at the weekly chart, if you look at the weekly RSI, you can see that we are still trending. We're actually forming upward sloping structure on the weekly RSI, right? This is the same type of thing that you saw kind of back here in 2020, that upward sloping low with a higher low, and pulling up the weekly MACD. This one's pretty important right now. I'm going to take away the MACD line and signal line because what we just did was we avoided a bearish cross down. And this is exactly what we discussed on this channel. Was the important thing to do as the MACD comes to that neutral point is to avoid the cross down and get a bounce off the neutral level, which indicates high levels of momentum. And it's the same thing that happened back here in 2020. Same type of thing. We came up, pulled back, we avoid the bearish cross down. It happened a second time, pulled back, avoid the bearish cross down, slight cross down, but price still trended up. We basically avoided the cross down. And if you avoid those cross downs, it indicates major momentum, right? So looking at this again over here at the weekly MACD, that is exactly what we just did. We've, of course the weekly still has to close, and this could indicate the next wave up on the MACD is coming here, which could send us to much higher levels. All right, we've pretty much reset on the MACD, so that's good to see. So, I mean, from the MACD perspective on the weekly, looks good. RSI looks pretty good. Looking at the price action, higher lows, exponential, going parabolic, looks good. We have a nice bear trap set up here. If we get above 49,000, we likely push towards 60,000, and then possibly a speculative idea, but possibly a post-halving dip to 44 to shake everyone out for the final time before really going and running to new highs. I mean, it's kind of just another standard Bitcoin bull market setup. We're bouncing off of that 20-week EMA, which we were doing here as well on that last zone before we went parabolic. So there's not much else to say other than everything seems to be in order. Everything seems to be set up correctly for this run to be successful. Again, we need to get above that 49,000 level to get this squeeze up to the 60K level. We want to see a weekly, doesn't have to be this week. The sooner we cross 49,000, it's the more likely we have trapped the most bears to get the best possible squeeze, right? If you give the market enough time, it settles up. You may not have as many trapped bears, but we had a really swift move down and a really swift recovery. Likely a lot of trapped shorts that are kind of going to be forced to get out, which sort of propels the squeeze. So we'll see. Again, you got to close above 49,000 for that to take place. And just to end this video with a quick discussion about altcoins, I know a lot of people have been wondering what's going on with the altcoins. Why aren't they going to the moon with Bitcoin? Well, it's because the narrative is still with Bitcoin. Before the halving, it's all about the Bitcoin halving. The narrative that Bitcoin's in the spotlight before the halving. We had the ETF, now the halving. It's all about Bitcoin right now. The altcoin narratives will kick in after the halving, because after the halving, it's going to be a little harder to muster up a major Bitcoin narrative. I mean, that's kind of just how it always has been in past cycles. After the halving, the Bitcoin narrative is kind of played out, and we just coast into that bull market, and the altcoins start to pick up steam after the halving. So it's still, full Bitcoin season right now. And as Bitcoin continues to have a successful uptrend, then the altcoins start to get some of that value coming down to the lower market cap coins, and then the altcoins can start surging. Bitcoin is likely going to be stealing the show, into the halving, right? But I wouldn't be surprised to see Ethereum start to run, right, pretty soon, to be honest. It's really undervalued right now, and then the altcoins could follow as we move into the halving. Just wanted to give you guys further updates on how I'm seeing the market, what I'm looking for. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, smash the like, subscribe to this channel, and be sure to join the Patreon. We have an annual 16% savings discount. You guys can see what altcoins we're buying. I'm releasing price targets for a lot of the altcoins right now, and we're gonna be adding more altcoins going into the halving and after the halving. Most of my best buys ever happened actually after the halving for altcoins. I bought Polygon at 4 cents many months after the halving. That was last cycle. And so the opportunity for altcoins is still really early. Like, it's very ripe. Like, there's going to be so many new projects coming out, and we're going to be focused on finding those, getting into those in the Patreon. You can join the Discord community. If you join Patreon, you got to join Discord. That's where we're all hanging out. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.